Hello, this is Robert Stellick with Zen Waterman Blue Planet Surf, and today we're watching a video about the Standamran S16 board and the board test we did to compare different unlimited boards. Yeah, this is the S16 Standamran that we had on the wall for a couple days, and it's Mark Rappahorst's futuristic catamaran design. Really cool, futuristic looking, kind of like a Batman type of board. Very smooth through the water, and in flatwater conditions especially, it felt like it was real easy to maintain a certain speed and just very smooth glide. It's very directional, has a neat rudder system too with two rudders, and overall really impressive board. So I was kind of eager to test it out and compare it to some other boards. So I organized a little board test that originally we had planned to do with 12.6 flat water boards before the Battle of the Paddle, but never got around to doing it. So now we did it with unlimited boards, including that S16 Standamran. There's Jared's Ohana unlimited board. We had a Nash and a SIC Bullet, an 18-foot bark, and a 17-foot Nash, and a Dennis Pang 17.6. So here's our first run. I was on the Standamran, and we had basically just a straight line course, 0.2 miles, a little bit over 0.2 miles, and we each timed ourselves with the stopwatch. It's just a straightaway, pure flat water test, speed test, with as little other things as possible. We didn't want to get the results screwed up by turning or whatever, so we just did a straightaway kind of to the middle of this dock bridge here, and then we each stopped ourselves, wrote down our times after each run, and then did switch boards and used 6 different boards. So we each did 12 runs, 6 down, 6 up, and 6 different boards, and then compiled all the results afterwards to see which board was fastest for all of us, or for the total time. So you can see the first one on the Standamran, I came in front of the other two guys. Jared Vargas and Anders Johnson were with me doing these tests. Thanks a lot, guys. And here's Jared with the Standamran now. We were all pretty excited about trying this thing out. And I got on the bark. There's Anders. Scott Dodds was also with us in the test and doing some of the runs with us, but he only completed three runs, so we didn't get results for all 6 boards with Scott, and I didn't include him in the results for that reason. But there's Anders bouncing up and down on the Standamran. The 2 pontoons are actually pretty narrow and low volume, so when you jumped up and down, it really bounced a lot, and you had to actually adjust your stroke to a little bit shorter strokes to not make it bounce up and down while you're paddling. And here's Jared and trying to turn it further back. Those 2 long pontoons in the water definitely is very directional. You can use the rudder, but still it's hard to make it turn and make it turn in a tight turn. Not easy. But it's fairly stable, surprisingly stable. So anyway, here's our next run. I'm on the bark. There's Anders on the Nash board. The bark was, you can see it definitely splashes a little bit more than the catamaran, but it has a fairly smooth entry, and felt a little bit heavy on the heavy side. Like, I'm not sure if it was the board or the way it felt, but that's kind of the sensation I had, was that kind of a little bit heavy, but then once I got it going, then it had good momentum. But Jared came in first on the catamaran, and Anders, and I came in third on the downwind with the wind. And so in the first 2 runs, that Standamran came in first on the downwind leg, but then on the upwind was a little behind, which was interesting. I kind of expected it to be really shining in the going into the wind, where you're kind of going against more chop and so on. I thought it would be faster in those conditions since it has that real clean entry, but for some reason it wasn't as fast as some of the other boards. And I was actually came in first on the bark, then the Nash, and the S16 came in third. And then here's the Dennis Pang board. We brought that one down, and the Bullet. So we switched out some boards. So we didn't actually have each of the boards in each race. It would have been ideal to have 6 guys testing 6 boards and switching back and forth. That way each board would have been tested in the identical conditions. So obviously there were some gusts of wind and so on. So some of the runs were a little bit faster, while some were a little bit slower just because of the conditions. But at least I think we got some fairly good results, and I do have the spreadsheet online with the total times and so on, so you can kind of look at the numbers and draw your own conclusions. But it's pretty surprising how consistent the speed differences were actually. And even though it's a small difference in a short distance like 0.2 miles, it might only be 1 or 2 board lengths, but if you multiply that by many miles, then that few percent difference can be a huge difference. So, it seems like there's not that much difference in speed, but it is actually quite a bit of difference. 1% can make a difference in a race. 1% over an hour is almost a minute, I believe. Anyways, here's the next test. I was on the Bullet, and then surprisingly, I was kind of actually impressed by the Flatwater speed of the Bullet. It doesn't feel that fast. It's a real planing hull with a flat bottom. It kind of feels a little bit splashy, but it's actually fairly quick through the water. There's Jared on the bark, and Anders on the Dennis Pang board, which is very near 25 inches, and I was able to actually keep up with both those guys. And when we were racing together too, we're especially Jared and I always kind of battle each other in the races, so we're very close in speed, usually when we're racing and so on. And so is Anders. Anders is actually a very good sprinter, I found out that day. He beat, he had like the lowest overall time of all 3 of us. And Scott had his fastest time on the Standamaran. So there we going up into the wind again, and that was also interesting to look at how boards, like some boards were a little bit faster on the downwinders and some were a little bit faster on the upwinders. So obviously we're only testing flat water speed here. Won't tell you much about how it handles in open ocean conditions, or especially downwinders where you got following swells that you can ride the bumps. That's a whole different ball game, and just because the board's fast in the flat water doesn't mean it's going to work well in the bumps. So it's all pretty important. Alright, so I'm going to swap out some boards again. Here's the rudder system on that bark, which is pretty cool. It has that batten rudder system, but it's like recessed underneath the deck pad. There's like a bridge going over the batten so that you can actually move your feet back when you're riding a bump or something and stand over the batten without touching the batten. I'm on the Dennis Pang board now, which also has the batten steering system, but it's actually just right on top of the deck, so you can really only move your feet straight back, not into the center of the board, because that batten is always in the way. This board is very fast and long drawn out bumps. It really has a lot of glide. It's only 25 inches wide though, so it's fairly tippy, but it's quick through the water and kind of a little bit splashy though in the nose. It's not as smooth as some other pure displacement boards with kind of a real piercing entry. Actually, I think all the boards we've tested were more like designed to be a little bit more downwind or open ocean boards rather than just pure flat water speed boards, except for maybe that SIC board. But even the SIC S16 Standamaran was designed to be a downwind board. I guess Mark Roppolers was trying to make it into a board that you could actually use in a Hawaii Kai run or even a Maliko run and ride bumps with and use the steering to control the speed. But I'm not sure if I would want to even attempt that because the 2 pontoons make it very directional. Now I am on the Sohana board. This is Jared's board, and it's a very pointy entry, very fast through the water. This was our fastest board in the test by quite a bit, by a 5% margin, so pretty impressive. And you can kind of see it too here in the Flatwater how smooth that water entry is. You can't really even see much of a wake coming off of it, and this comes off way in the back. It's more like a sleek kayak or whatever were. So I came in quite a bit ahead of the other guys in this one with the Ohana board, and overall you can see in the results. I was checking out the bottom of this board afterwards. It has these interesting rails, like kind of funky tucked under concave rails, a double concave bottom that kind of goes from piercing entry into flat double concave. And yeah, whatever it is, something about this board is very fast. Jared actually said that they have other boards that are even faster for Flatwater, and he did like the Catalina race recently with a fast a fast Flatwater Ohana board, and I think he beat everyone by over 10 minutes, so that was pretty impressive. Well, that's it. Thanks for listening and watching, and